Seriously. Well, hi, everybody. This is your stay-at-home grandma. And I am on because this is our grief night. And I'm not sure. Well, I put up a bunch of pictures of my son the other day, but grief isn't only about just my son. It's the grief I feel for my mother, for my father, for everybody. Hey, Jonas, hey, Jelly Bean, how you doing? How you doing? So, if Jonas, I got to put up with the number, the web pages, so you can, if you want to come on, you can come on. I am, I'm dealing with it a lot better than I think I really was dealing with it the whole time, but but it hurts, you know. And I think I was missing my mom and everybody. It just, you know, when if you want to come up, I gotta put it up here too. Okay, I put it up. So I was cleaning today, and we have the Catholic kids who come every year and do things for the seniors. So they're going to help me with my garden tomorrow, and that'll be nice. The bad allergies, Jonaside, I know the feeling. But I did finish a couple of these. These are the shuttle walks with Joe. I don't know whether you had seen them or not. So that's one. I got two finished. And I still got to do some coloring on this one because this lace up here, that's the other one for Joe. So when those are done, but I sell memory shadow boxes anyway. So, you know, for different people. So if you decide you want one, they are, let me tell you, okay, they're $15 because I have to mail them. So that includes the mailing and stuff as well. So if you want one for your mother or your sister or something like that or whatever, that's good. When these are finished, Jonaside and Jelly Bean and a couple of other people, I'm going to send you some of these. But let me tell you, I have a new printer. And I had it set up and then it stopped working. And then I have to call and have them set up again. And I just have been so busy just trying to get everything in order in the art room and everything like that. Yeah, well, I'm going to send you and Jonaside and a couple of other people one. So the only thing that I ask for that is just the mailing, which would be like $5. But if you want one for your mom or something like that, then it's $15. You just have to send me the pictures. And what I say to you is, don't send me the original pictures, send me something that's printed out on the printer. Because the original pictures, or an original picture I found out does not do well, okay, all the time in this type of situation. So, you know. So anyway, hey KB, how you doing? Happy Wednesday to you. Big hugs to you too. I'm going to talk about, I think, my first big loss tonight, and that was my dad. And I was 8 years old, and pretty much I'm not going to tell the story, but I'm going to tell you how I felt along the way. All right. And it's funny because Carolyn has said who was Joey's roommate, had similar, the same thing, but still, how I felt along the way was quite sad because, everybody had a dad pretty much that I was around. All my friends had dads and stuff like that. And it was very hard for me to, well, I think I covered it up well. And I think that because, you know, my mother was the woman that she was a very strong woman and everything like that. And she cried. Don't believe me, she cried. But she did not like to display her emotions around people, around strangers. Around family, it was okay. And she kind of instilled that one in me. And it's just been in recent years that I am actually able to express how I feel. One of the things about becoming a counselor made me understand some of the things that I was feeling, at that particular time. So in losing my dad, it kind of, I don't want to say it put me in a dark place, but it put me in a strange place because I did not know how to react, even to men when I was a young girl. I really didn't. And there was some problems, I think, along the way. But he was a good dad. He was a good man. And hey, Mobs, guess what I have on? Yes, I do. He was a good dad. He was a good man. And the thing that I didn't realize till I was much older is how many friends he had. He, like Joe, had a lot of friends. And people would, people would come up to me later on in life and say, are you, he was Joe also. Are you Joe's daughter? And I'd say, yes. They say, and they would begin to tell me what a good man he was and how instrumental he was in people's lives and different things that he helped them do and everything like that. And again, I was shocked because I just knew him as dad, and I only knew him till I was 8 years old. And, there were a lot of things that he missed along the way that I used to always sit and wonder, if he was alive, what would he do? If he was alive, what would he say? And one of the last conversations that Joey and I had was about my father. And he was saying to me how he wished that, he had gotten to know him because even as he began to grow up, and he grew up in the neighborhood that I was raised in, people would say, "Oh, you're Dee Dee's son, and I knew your grandfather, and blah 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 blah, and your grandmother's a wonderful woman, and blah 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 blah, and everything like that." And he said he heard so many good things about his grandfather that he just wished that he had known him, at least for a little while, because I think he was 13, I think, when his grandmother died. Because I think his sister was 15. They were along that age. But I ended up learning grief counseling because, again, I didn't realize how grieved I was. Oh, yeah. I never, yeah, it's hard on a kid. He knew his father's father, but not my dad. And like I said, we know when people come up to you, and we would talk about it when he would come home from school and say, "Hey, I saw so and so and so," and he was telling me all about my grandfather and stuff like that. And he would just say, "It's really strange how you got to learn something about somebody from other people, and not actually meet the person." And I said, "Well, yeah, because, you can't." Here's what I learned in school. And it's common sense, but many people don't do this because they say, okay, the person is dead, they've moved on, and blah, 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 blah. And some people even tell you get over it. It's impossible. It's impossible. You don't get over somebody that you love. Okay? So what I learned was not to tell them or not to say, get over it, get around it. You got to get through it, because you get through it per se, but you never forget that person, especially if that person was a good person and was good to you. It was a part of you. So taking that into consideration, you have to handle it differently. And I will tell you, okay? Like I said, my mother's been dead for 41 years. Okay? And every now and then, especially like Christmas or the holidays, because that was her thing. Okay, she lived every day like it was her last. She was a funny little woman. She was a little short woman. She was funny, but she made every day pretty much fun. Now she had her differences and her extremes and everything, like every other parent in the world. She wasn't perfect, but in my eyes, she was perfect because she raised me. Okay, and she kept the house, she kept the store, she kept everything intact. She worked a lot of hours. And I remember when my dad died, she said to me, so now look, your brothers are gone. And she said, it's just me and you. She said, and we're just gonna have to buckle up and do what we gotta do. So I'm depending on you to do this and that. Yeah, yeah, it really wasn't. And I remember the first Thanksgiving without her, she always had a few of her friends over, and their grandchildren and stuff like that. And they were my kids' age. So I did everything that Thanksgiving and invited her friends over and things like that. And it was good. I mean, and everybody's raved about how much I cooked like my mother. Okay. But we just kind of sat there and I remember one of the women, Mrs. Robeson, she just started crying. She said, because it's just not the same without Evelyn. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But we're going to make the best of it, and then, we just kind of talked about all the good things that she did, all the good things that she did in the neighborhood, her little rose garden and everything like that. And I think that that's where people are confused, because you should always talk. You pull in all the good things, okay, and you share them. And you share them with your friends and your family and your grandchildren and things like that, because at the end of the day, or at the end of the day, you keep those good things forward, so that you don't forget and that you should not forget. You should not ever forget. Now, there are people that don't have a lot of good things about parents or, kids or whatever. They might have done some really bad things and stuff like that. If you reach down really far inside of you, you can pick out one good thing. You can live with that, because it's not fair to you to emotionally hate somebody because of what they were, because hurting people hurt people. Hey, Julie Bean.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Julie. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Am I echoing? Am I echoing?
What happened? Oh, you're fine.
Okay. Just checking. I'm on my phone and I had to reset my Google password again to get on for some reason.
Oh, wait a minute. KB said that she had a very rough day today over the loss of her dad for no reason, just one of those days. And I don't typically believe in signs, but the stream is much needed today. Suicide. Oh, he committed suicide in 2005. Oh, I'm sorry about that, KB. Okay, I'm sorry about that. That's very hard for anybody to deal with. It's hard enough when they die, but when they commit suicide or something like that, and you're always thinking, what could I have done? Yeah, it still sucks. Of course it does, because you really don't know. I mean, something's bothering him or her. You know what's some of the things that might be bothering him. You know that there's a depression there, but you don't know how to handle it. And I'll tell you something, as a therapist, I never knew how to handle suicide. I did my best with it, and I never actually had, no, that's not true. I had one client when I was working in the rehab that committed suicide. Okay, but I wasn't there anymore. I had left the rehab and somebody told me that she committed suicide. And she always wanted to die. And I kept saying, but why? You've got beautiful children. You've got a good husband. Why? And she said, I don't know. 6 months. I was so depressed because she was the closest person that I had to my grandmother. I understand that, Mom. When you start losing people like that, it hurts. It hurts. So you know what I mean? And I mean, Jelly Bean, everybody can tell you when you start losing people, even friends, I mean, that you were close to, I mean, and the older you get, the more they start just kind of melting away little by little. It's scary too.
So scary.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, and I'm not scared of dying. I've never, maybe when I was younger, but I every day when I get up, I wake up, I pinch myself and I say, thank God I'm alive. And I try to live each day like it's my last, but I'm telling you, okay, I am not afraid to die because I know I'm going to die. And I've accepted that. But it's just when you watch life slip away from the people that you love, okay, and little by little they start going, and it's like a mountain that it just kind of keeps building, And so what's up, Julie Bean?
Well, since this is for grief support, so interestingly enough, since Father's Day, so I lost my mom in 2018, in January 18. So on Father's Day, I was in, you have a time hearing me? I was in Market Basket, just pick up quick in the morning. I ran into one of her friends and, I stopped to say hi and she asked me how my mother's doing. And I was speechless. I was like, oh my God, Vicky, she died in 2018. And I could have swore I told her because she works at Market Basket Bakery. She had no idea. So she then starts asking me questions. Was she in Florida? So I'm trying to quickly just tell her like what happened with her, how she died. She passed away in her sleep. She had a heart attack. And so she went very peacefully with no pain. She never wanted tubes and all that stuff. So then like later on that week, I got a random Facebook private message from a person that I happened to go to school with her daughter, but she was friends with my mother and her husband. My mother was married 3 times and her third husband was her final. His name is, funny enough, his name is Jason, the same as my brother's. So she asked me she just sent me a message, said she was thinking of my mom and Jason and all that. And I was like, she had never sent me a message before. So I wrote her back. And then on this past Sunday, so it was Fiesta in Gloucester, and my family's house is on a street that everyone goes to. It's like downtown. So I'm walking to my grandparents and I see one of the neighbors that I know. She stops, gives me a hug. So good to see you. How's your mother doing? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, my mom passed away in 2000. She's another person that swears she didn't know that my mother died. And the fact that it happened within 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, I had 3 people asking about her. So it's very, like, I'm always speechless because, her obituary was in the paper and, it doesn't matter if you were on Facebook or not. I just take it as a sign that I still have more grieving to do. That's the way she's coming around me. She's around me a lot. And I just got a funny feeling that I worked a whole year to work through the process of grief with her. I won't bore everyone with the story of my complicated relationship with my mother, but I think there's more work to do. There's something that has to come up that I have to grieve. So I don't know what it is. I journal and meditate to kind of get to what I need to do, like, or I'll write a letter to kind of see what comes out. So
That would probably be a good thing is to actually write a letter. You don't necessarily have to share it with us, but you might have to
mhm,
share it with somebody that's close to you, or you just write the letter and you actually just put it in a bottle and throw it up, and you got plenty of water around you
yeah,
and
I
throw
do.
it up the snake.
Well, I tend to burn them. It's usually my
Yeah.
way of, I know it sounds kind of weird, but I kind of have a little ritual that I've done. I've used that for forgiveness, like to write a letter when I'm working on forgiving someone, and I burn it as a way to like release it. But so that was quite interesting to have all that come up. And with your son, with Joey, I got so sick shortly after he passed away. So it kind of halted the grieving process for me because I was so sick. And of course, there was so many times during that time I wanted to like text him to be like, and then I'd have to be reminded that I can't. But that was tough too. That's been tough this year with the loss of him because he was someone I knew outside of YouTube. So it was and having it happen when I got sick, it just like then it hit me once I got better, like, oh my God. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, I'm just, if anybody else wants to come up, you can come up. I'll put the thing back in the chat room again. Um, I'm just really, when I started putting the pictures up Sunday, I hadn't looked at any of those pictures. The only two pictures that I looked at are the ones that Carol sent me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they're hanging by my bed.
Nice.
And, but I hadn't looked at any of them. And so finally, and people were sending me pictures and everything like that. And finally, I started to send the pictures out because I finally, made peace with the fact that he's not coming back.
No.
If anybody wants to come up, I just put the StreamYard thing again.
I
Vernell said, Vernell said that yes, you have to find a way to cope um with how you get over someone you love. Memory when you didn't get a chance to resolve the problem with them on earth is okay. And the thing of it is, Vernell, and everybody, is the fact that, I don't ever want anybody to think my mother was perfect. We had our issues, trust me.
mm,
There's a couple of issues. There was one particular issue that just something happened that I really didn't like. And when I tried to tell her, she didn't really believe me. You know what I mean? Read between the lines of that. And at the end, when she was in the coma, I said to her in the hospital, I said, I said, the only thing that I have aught with you about is the fact that you didn't believe me. I would never lie about anybody. And I'm talking to her while she's in her sleep. Well, she grabbed my hand. And that
mm,
made me understand that she did understand it. Because I really didn't, I mean, she was the nurse. I never got into nursing or anything like that. But I didn't really know until I started studying people in comas and stuff like that they can actually hear you.
yeah. Especially and
Yeah. And I mean, and she was so good to everybody in the neighborhood and everything like that, I had to start pulling out pieces. There was more good than bad. So that's what I had to live on, more good than bad, because I know a lot of people right now that I don't know a lot of people, just a few now, but they didn't even speak to their mother or their father or both.
well,
So,
I did not talk to
now, how are you, by the way? I'm sorry.
I didn't talk to my dad, and it was my choice, but it was also very toxic. And at that time, I know I made the right decision to distance myself from her. But
Mhm.
luckily, we had started to communicate and talk slowly. Like I started off by just friend requesting her on Facebook and then texting. She was moving to Florida. But when it came time for when she was sick, so like the last 9 months of her life, enough time had gone by that we had been talking a little bit. And really sick and she needed me. And I think too, I had come to peace with stuff. I was older, mature. She was different. So she literally was dropped into my life. And she was really sick. She had colitis, and funny enough, she she needed to have a colostomy bag done, just like your son did, but hers was permanent. She was never gonna lose it. I had to take care of her. She stayed at my house for 3 weeks, and I worked for the organization that she had her surgery at and stuff. And when she left my house, I was like, I don't know what happens from here, but those last 9 months was the best quality of relationship I had with her since even when I was a child. So when she died so unexpectedly, that's what was so hard. It's like, I finally, like, we had, like, she was different. She finally respected like certain boundaries of mine. Like, I didn't ask for anything crazy. Don't bash my father, like my father, her first husband. I'm like, I know he was a shitty father. I know all this. I don't need you to keep bashing him. Like, you can say whatever you want to, but I'm still his daughter. Like, that was one of our biggest things we used to butt heads on. But she finally started to respect just these few things that I asked for. And then she was just gone. And I don't know what's worse. Like, one of my close friends, I swear we do everything together. So when my mother died, her father was dying as well. And he passed away, I think, 2 weeks after my mother. And they had to do what I call the death watch. He was on hospice, and for a week, they slept in their family living room, waiting for him to die. I'm like, I don't know what's worse. I didn't get to say goodbye to my mother. She went in her sleep, but I don't know if I'd want to watch her for a week and slowly, disintegrate before my eyes. Like, I don't know what's worse. I don't know if there's a better way. So, but I have no regrets. That's the biggest thing, is I have no regrets, because I would have had regrets if we had never started talking before she passed, because she was young. She was only 62.
Yeah. And it's strange though, because like I said, Joni and I had in the beginning when he was younger, we didn't have a tumultuous relationship. We had a relationship, but it wasn't the relationship that we had when he was young. And I realized that I had to pull away because he was growing up, and he was always a very private person.
Mm-hmm.
He told you what he wanted you to know. Okay. And so I would never ask anything. And one day, in fact, the picture that I showed to him at the church with his sister and my husband was my 70th birthday party. Now, that's the last time I physically saw him, because he was supposed to come and see me, and then he got sick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, about a year and a half after that. So, and then COVID came, and so nobody could go anywhere. And we were sitting down and we were talking that night, and he said, so you're 70? And I'm saying, yeah, and I said, I'm lucky. I said, I'm really blessed, because I said, a lot of my friends didn't make it. He said,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I hope I live to be 70. And then he was telling me, he was sorry for some of the things that he did. And I said, you really didn't do anything, okay? I said, you demanded your privacy, and I respected that. So, you're a little upstart sometime and stuff like that, but whose kid isn't? I said,
Yeah.
the things that I'm happy about now is the fact that he only went to jail overnight one time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything that he did, he kept it out of my earshot. Okay. I'm hurt that he doesn't have any kids, because I would have grandchildren by him, but he has his little good granddaughter that he calls his granddaughter. So that's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I just really wanted to see what kind of a man he would have grown into as he got older, but that didn't happen. So I'm happy for the time that I had with him. Do I miss him? Of course. And then what's been going through my mind is, that's why I haven't gone through any of his pictures when he was a little guy downstairs, because I'm scared to go through them right now.
Mm-hmm.
One of these days I'll go down in the chest and I'll open it up and I'll start to look at them again, but not right now.
You'll know when you're ready, because that's
Yeah.
how, even with my mother. And it's funny, because I couldn't listen to any of the live streams that we ever did, to hear his voice, to hear him, like, talking to me and stuff. I couldn't, it was too hard to hear. And one day I'm always cleaning out pictures on my phone and stuff. So I had this video, and I hit it, and all of a sudden I hear his voice, because he had videoed when he had taken the dogs out and they had the collars that light up. So it's dark and all you see is the flashing lights, and he's calling to the dogs and stuff. He did it like it was just a 10-second video, but when I heard his voice, it took me by surprise. I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot I even had this. So it was after that I started to listen to a few of his live streams, but I haven't been able to in a while because some of them are just, I can't believe it was a year ago.
Yeah.
Seems like
I haven't gone to any of his live streams or anything, and I need to write Smoke King and see how he's doing, because I can't right now.
Yeah, I've been smoking here and there. I know he was sick one week and he hasn't been live for the last 2 weeks. He hasn't been live on Thursday night. Last week he said it depended on what time he got home from work. So I know it's hard for him. I know it's hard for him to not have Joey there. They made a good team.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they did. And so I know it's hard for him. And, I try to, email everybody and see how everybody's doing. But Smoking, I kind of have just kind of left alone for a little bit, because, I mean, every time we talk, we just start crying. So,
Yeah.
Hey, little bit, how you doing? Welcome. I mean, it's just, and the thing is, what's so crazy about it is, the same reaction I have for him is the same reaction I have for my mother and for my father, and a couple of my uncles. Somebody sent me a picture of my Uncle Andy, who was married to my aunt, but he was a good man. And when my father died, he and one of my brothers who had just come back from Korea said, okay, we step up to the plate. We take care of you the best way we know how. So my uncle used to come from Connecticut all the time. And he was from the Philippines, and he used to bring his little banjo and he would make food and we would talk and everything like that. And what's unclear to me, I don't even know actually when he died, because I was still a kid. Yeah. But I remember saying, wow, how much I missed him, because, and I would look out the window for I guess I was looking out the window for about a month, and my mother used to say, what are you looking for? I'm waiting for Uncle Andy to come. And she said, he's not coming, so, and I think I was about 10 when he died. So it was, it's just a mess. It was just a mess.
I come from a really huge Italian family. My grandmother had 10 brothers and sisters. And it hits me hard when I see us all together, because none of my great uncles are alive anymore, except for some spouses. And I only have, I think, 4 or 5 great aunts that are still alive. My grandmother was the second oldest. And I was there a lot of them this weekend, and my Aunt Joanne, who's the youngest, just always a reminder, how lucky I didn't know when I was little how lucky I was to have all this family in this huge.
I don't think anybody does.
And that's just it. You don't know until you're older. I just remember as a kid having this house, because 3 families lived there when my great grandmother was still alive, and just literally running through. There's a window to climb from one where my grandmother was to my great grandmother. We used to climb through the window and all that. And I feel sad for my kids that they didn't get to experience that as well. Because a lot of them had passed, but I think I took a lot of it for granted in a way.
Yeah, I don't know, because like I said, I never knew my mother's mother. I knew my father's mother, but when my father died, now my mother said that my grandmother blamed his death on her. I don't know how she could blame cancer on her, but when you're distraught, you may blame anything. So my mother wouldn't let me go down south to see her. Okay.
Bad.
And there was some discord between 2 of them. And at that particular time, in that age, nobody ever told you what was going on. So I never asked. Mm-hmm. But she let me talk to her and everything like that. So I didn't see her again until I was grown. So.
My mother's side is really small. I have one great aunt who's in her 90s, and she is feisty as hell. That's my Portuguese side. I haven't seen her, and I need to go see her because I have something I need to give her. But between being sick and stuff, I have not I'm just starting to go out and do more stuff because I really did have to take it easy because I almost just died, literally.
Yeah, I know.
So my mother, that's why I think that's kind of why some of my mom's stuff is coming up because I saw her and my nana. That's her mother when I was in whatever place I was in for 4 days that I don't really remember.
Yeah. Baby, I don't go to my mother. My mother and father are buried together, and I don't go to their grave because, first of all, it's in Boston. Once I had the stroke, I have not driven. I haven't been home in 10 years. I haven't been to Massachusetts in 10 years now. It's my intention, if all goes well, because my granddaughter is going to be going home to visit the family and stuff like that. So it's my intention to come home with her. I don't know how I'm going to make the ride and everything like that. So I've got to talk to my doctor about that, because I have, well, see, my granddaughter will stop and let me get out the car and let me walk around for a minute and stuff like that. She has a lot of patience. Well, she had to have a lot of patience. Like I said, she graduated in biomedicine and I still don't know what it is. And she's told me several times, but, you know what I mean? So it's my intention to try to come home this summer. We'll see, what my doctor says and stuff like that. And I'm going back to physical therapy and stuff like that. So, and then.
If you're a mass, hit me up. I can always, if you come mass, hit me up because I can always come to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'll know next week when I go to the doctor's because I got to get my carpal tunnel hand operated on. So, oh yeah, it's a little operation, just a day in an operation, and then you come home. So
yeah, grandmother had it on both her hands because she cut fish.
Yeah, so, but he has to do it because I'm getting a little numb in these two fingers here, so
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But I would like to come home and see. I haven't been, like I said, in 10 years, and I'm sure that Massachusetts has changed drastically because it changed every year.
They've renumbered the highway last year, just so you know. Again, they renumbered all of 95 and I think 93 too, which was like, really? Again? I remember they renumbered them like 15 or 20 years ago.
Mm. Well, I mean, Boston has always changed.
Yeah, they're doing work on the Sumner right now. It's closed on the weekends right now, the Sumner Tunnel. I hate that tunnel. I hate that.
I have always thought that tunnel, because my first husband, Joey and Rena's father, he used to work at the airport. And so sometimes I'd go pick him up when his car was in the shop. And I always feel like, what did he say? That tunnel is just going to implode with water.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so tight in there with the car. Like there's one lane. If you break down or there's an accident, you are screwed. I would sometimes go the Sumner just to, if the traffic was bad on the Tobin, I would cut through Chelsea to go. And I swear, I used to hold my breath practically the whole time through that tunnel. I hate that tunnel.
Yeah, I always hated it.
It is just not, out of all of them, that's the worst.
Anybody else want to come on? KB, you want to come on? But I'm just saying, it's tough. It really is. And you just have to have strength. You just have to keep going on. I don't know how to. Hey, Carmen, how you doing? Happy Wednesday, almost over. I don't know. I know, like, I've talked to a lot of people over the years, and it's somehow or other, I just don't know how people do what they do. I mean, how they handle it, because, I know. Okay, KB. You've never been on live. You got to come on my live. No, I know you're not feeling well, Jonas.
I know. Feel better, John. Your allergies have been bad for a while.
Really? I know. Allergies is bad for everybody. But like I said, because, I mean, it's just, I know one particular situation, which was a little bit like mine, but this one particular woman, her daughter, when I was in school, used to come to me all the time because for like 6 months, she lost her I think it was her mother, her aunt, one of her best, I mean, just boom, 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 boom. And I remember that happening to me when I was younger. I lost, the people next door got killed in a car accident on the 4th of July. My father-in-law, even though Norman and I were divorced, you know, my father-in-law was my best friend. My aunt, then my mother. I mean, it was just nonstop for about 6 months.
I have,
Hello, Miss Frugal Mama. How are you doing?
when I was 32 or 33, I literally went to, I think it was 8 funerals that year.
I
It
think everybody goes through that.
And it was like, some great aunts who were older, and the worst was my cousin who was only a couple years older than me, but it was like a friend's father. It was like, I swear, it was like non-stop. Like, I actually had gone out and bought like my funeral clothes, and it was almost a joke, but in a bad way. Like, got to pull out the funeral stuff because I had so many that in that one year time span. And I remember starting in January with a great aunt, and it didn't end until November.
Yeah, that's about the time that the funny thing is, it's not funny, but I don't mean it in ha ha, but my mother was in a coma. My my niece who got hit by a car on that Saturday, that Sunday my mother died. When we're burying my mother, that Thursday my niece dies.
Oh my
She
God.
was buried here on the Thursday, and we didn't have cell phones or anything then. And so when my brother came to the house, you know, and stuff like that, he gets a call. We had I don't know whether we didn't have call waiting or anything like that. I don't think. But the phone kept ringing, and I answered the phone, and I said, "Oh, Chico, it's somebody for you." And because his wife didn't come, but it wasn't his wife; it was his wife's sister. But I didn't know her voice. So I said, "Chico, this is somebody for you." And they were telling me, you know, he's all upset and crying and everything. I said, "What the heck is going on? What's wrong?" And he says, "You know, Hillary died." And I'm like, "Oh God." You know, and it just went on and on and on. My mother's best friend's husband. I mean, it was a mess. So, like you, I just kept my clothes ready.
Yeah, that year was insane.
I think everybody has a year like that. If you
Yeah,
haven't had one, you will.
unfortunately. But yeah, and actually just this in the month of June, I had a friend die the month before her 21st birthday, and so it was the 25-year anniversary of her passing this month, which was
Mm.
crazy. That one was hard. We were so young, and it was so she had heart disease that no one knew about, and she had a little son too. That was horrible.
Jonas, I said it, but when it rains, it pours, but sometimes it can't rain all the time. And it's true. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of life that if you're smart, you can't let it get to you. You can't let it depress you so bad that it just takes you down. You know, you have to try to rise above it the best way you can. Because I know, you know, for a couple of days I wasn't eating or anything like that, and that's not me. You know what I mean? I have my snacks, you know, and things like that. And I'm supposed to eat like, you know, small meals and stuff like that. And I wasn't eating, and my husband said, "No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that." You know, and I think too because with Joe being sick and then him being in and out the hospital because he came from the hospital like that Monday or Tuesday, then Joey dies that Thursday, and I'm like, "Dang," you know.
It was crazy.
Yeah, but I just think that I don't want to say that he gave up because Joey never gave up on anything. I think Joey was just at peace with the fact that he was going to die.
I think he was tired. I did not know him as long as a lot of people did, right? I knew him maybe 9 months, a year, meaning like I mean, I've been watching Paranormal Hood for years, but to know him personally, I did not know him nearly as well, but just from what I did know, I know like he was a little stubborn. Let's say he's stubborn. He should have went to the doctors, but that's a whole other. But I think when I really thought about it, I think he was just tired of being sick, if that makes sense. Like tired of
He
just,
does.
and he had said to me one time, you know, he had lived a lot in 50 years that most people don't get to live because, you know, with his company, and because we had talked about, you know, our kids not having kids, and he had said, you know, his life, he felt like his lifestyle wasn't indicative to having a family and all that because he was, you know, doing his thing or whatever. But I don't, I mean, I don't think like I feel the same way. I don't think he wanted to go. I just think he was just tired. I think he was just tired. Doesn't make it okay. I think he just was tired, and he had been in pain for so long. I think he was just ready to not be in pain.
You know, we'll see. I don't know whether you know the history of him, but you know, he got shot while
Oh
he
yeah.
was, and then he had an aneurysm.
Yep.
Then something else happened to him, and then this. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I think that he was just really tired of the whole thing, you know?
That's what I mean. Like, you know, I think it was he didn't want more hospital visits and more surgeries and more this. Like, you know, I think he. Yeah, I've seen the scar on his leg and stuff, so I know how gnarly that was. I think he was just, but I don't know for sure. I don't, like I said, I don't know. I don't know him like other people do. I just know him from like this last year and stuff, just from what, you know, I don't feel like he gave up either, though. I just don't think that's who he is. I think he's just tired. And I
Yeah,
think
I don't think he
like
gave up.
my mom was the same way, you know, she was tired. She had been through a lot, and she could have woken up her husband. She made a choice, and I don't know if Joe made a choice, but you know, I think he knew it was coming, though. I definitely think his soul knew it was coming.
Well, the reason why I know that he knew it was coming is because that Saturday before he died, he asked me a whole bunch of questions that he was never interested in asking me before. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and then he asked me about my father and things like that, and I'm like, well, pretty much I told you. He said, but I just want to know. I told
Look,
him.
looking back at our
Mhm.
old conversations, like through text message, I knew he knew, if that makes sense. Like he knew it was coming. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I think I think sometimes and this is just my belief. I mean, I don't, you know, people don't have to believe what I believe, but I think your soul knows before your conscious mind knows. So I think his soul knew that he was getting ready to go, even if consciously he wasn't like planning it. So I like looking back, like I can tell where there was a shift where it's like, yep, he knew right around here that he didn't have much time left here.
Yeah. Jonas, I was saying when with his mom after she passed, um, it was okay. We were all sad, but it was at her house, and it was the one after the plus the family drama after that that felt like another weight on me. Yeah, the family drama. See, my mother moved away from her family. I don't know why. I guess because my father wanted to live in Boston. I don't know. But she moved away from Connecticut. So we were only down the Cape and in Connecticut for holidays and weddings. And then I would spend some summers down there and stuff like that. But my mother wasn't around all the drama. And one of the things that I liked about my mother is if she had something to say to you, she said it to you. She didn't tell Miss Hill or Miss Jilly or whatever. She told you, look, blah 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 blah. So she was not one of those people that were on the phone gossiping all the time. And so therefore, I really didn't get into the phone and gossiping. And the older I got, the more I moved away from the phone. When I was a teenager, I was always on the phone, but you know if my mother even thought that she heard me gossiping about somebody, she just popped me in the back of the head, you know. And so therefore, I just didn't gossip. So family drama for us was if my aunt called and said, okay, blah, 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 my mother would listen. And then my mother would say, okay, well, Connie, this is what you need to do. And let's talk about something else now. You know what I mean? Because I'm not there. So I don't want to get in the middle of something that I didn't hear the other side. So my aunt, after a while, my aunt gave up on my mom too. She just would call and talk to her about how you doing, sis, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, yeah, family drama is something that I had to put up a lot with when I was a pastor because of the funeral. Family dramas at weddings too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
family dramas at weddings. So I would just sit everybody down and say, okay, look, so here's how we're going to do this. Blah, blah, blah. And we're going to, and then when if you want to fight after you leave the church, I can't, but you're not going to argue and fuss while you are inside the church.
Yeah.
And yeah, family drama. I mean, and like I said, I'm away from my family for the most part, so I don't really know what goes on. So anytime that I would go visit or something like that to Connecticut or whatever, I would be just happy to see them. They'd be happy to see me, and so they would never actually say, "Well, she did this," and I would notice certain people were not speaking, but I just wouldn't say anything. So. Because I mean, they usually get over it, but yet their family brings drama. But family brings a lot of things, though. They bring a lot of good things too. But yeah, that drama right there.
There's always one person that has to stir the pot. I find in every family, everyone I know, there's always that one person
And
that
that
stir the pot.
And that was my mother's brother. My mother's brother, God rest his soul. Okay, please. He was a nice guy, but he gossiped like an old woman.
Yeah, men are worse than women sometimes.
Okay, and he would if he never seemed to find, and I never really knew where it came from because I never bothered to ask him. Even when I became an adult, I'm saying, there were just some things I don't want to know. He would stir the pot for no reason. We would be talking about apples and he'd bring in oranges. You know what I mean? Like, really? I mean, it was just stupid. But that's how he was.
Yep.
And then he wondered why his wife left him. And she would, and his daughter, and she got married again. His wife did. And one time we had some kind of family something, and his wife actually, his wife and his daughter came, said hello to him, and kept right on going.
And they were polite though. Don't you love it? They were big enough to say hello and just move on and move along.
And she did. And then his retort was, well, that's all she got to say to me. I'm like,
you're lucky you got that.
Well, see, I kept my mouth shut.
Yeah.
Because somewhere I could feel my mother with her hand getting ready to smack me.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and Jonas said at my uncle's funeral, I told to people who were bickering to one, shut up, and two, to leave, because the next time I hear, I'll drag them out. They were older and shocked, and I said that I reminded them I wasn't about them. Yeah, I know. And I don't understand why they got to bicker at the funeral.
It's like death, weddings, anything like that can bring out the best and the worst in people. I find too with death, with parents, there's always money. That is one of the reasons why people are fighting, which is always so stupid. Like, they're counting their dollar signs before you even get to say goodbye to your loved one. I know a few situations like that. It was money that it was what people were fighting about. It's like, seriously, people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what they fight about mostly. You're right about that. Or I liked when a couple of my mom's friends said, well, one of my mother's friends just went into the kitchen, and I'm looking around and everything like that. And I said, can I help you? And she said, well, I was just looking because I wanted a couple of things of bevies, right? And I'm like, well, you wait a couple of days and then I'll let you go through some things and stuff like that. But don't just come in and start,
Mm-mm.
But there are those people that think, okay, And I remember, who was it? I just remember the conversation. I don't remember who it was. But somebody said something, and my mother said, oh, she said something about, when you die, I'm going to come in and take all the good things. And my mother said, really? But what if you die first? I mean, and I was a kid. That's why I don't remember. I don't remember who it was, but I just remember that whole thing. I must have been about 12 years old. And I'm like, and then of course, I'm asking in my mind, is my mother dying and she's not telling me? So I asked her, I said, are you dying and you're not telling me? Because I don't think I can go through this again. And she's like, no. She said, people just think that,
they're entitled.
That they're entitled and stuff like that. And I'm like, shit,
When my mother died, like I had to clean out. So the house that they were living at was not like a childhood home I grew up in. Like I said, my mom was on her third marriage anyways, but I told her husband I would, clean out her clothes for her, and he wanted it done sooner than later. So I did. I think there was only two things I had asked for all of her pictures, which I did get. And there was just one other thing, but he ended up giving me, which I didn't expect, was all of her jewelry. I even have her wedding band and stuff, which he had wanted to keep. I did not expect to take that, but I have all of her jewelry. Some of it I've been trying to give away to like her friends. I have some away for my brother. I have so much of it, but I wasn't even going to ask for it. He gave that to me, but there are a few things that I wish I had gone back to get. Like I got her box of recipes. I made sure to take that because her husband didn't cook. He didn't care about making Hergotha cookies or other things that I cared about. And there was one or two other things that I got, but I wish I had gone back. And there was some old Christmas decorations and stuff that I wish I had gotten. But I ended up, oh my God, I still have a bag of a few things of hers that I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to give away or donate. It's small at this point. I've whittled it down over the years.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's tough, because I like pretty much, I don't know what the holidays are going to bring for me this year, but I know last year I felt kind of nostalgic. And it's like every other Christmas it hits me. So, and Thanksgiving was actually her jam. She loved Thanksgiving. She started cooking for Thanksgiving 3 weeks early, freezing stuff and whatever. And, I just, I don't know, last Thanksgiving, it wasn't this past one. It wasn't the past one last year. It was the year before that. I was really nostalgic. So I don't know what's going to happen to me this one.
It hits you how you least expect it. The first holiday without my mother was Easter. And I was like, well, I spent Easter with her anyways. Once my parents got divorced, I went with my dad. And it hit me a lot harder than I expected. And that first Christmas, I remember I was going, because I have kids and stuff, going through the motions, but just going through the motions, not really. I remember like killing my brother was going to be out here. So I was trying to make things that she always did for him. I ran myself so hard into the ground. I ended up with the flu the week of Christmas, and I missed going to my aunt's house on my dad's side that Christmas Eve. I ended up missing out on a few things because I ended up so sick in bed because I ran myself into the ground that first Christmas. You don't know. You won't know till the day hits.
So Jonas said he asked for one thing before my mom passed, a ruby ring that I love. There's a story behind it, and she didn't know I remembered, but it was as a kid I did. Yeah, you usually remember the stories. You know what I mean? You usually remember the stories, and like I said, it's real funny because I didn't know that Joey remembered so many things. And like I said, we had this long conversation the week before he died. And actually wasn't even a week. and just about different things and dumb things we used to do when they were kids and stuff like that. And I'm like, when I got off the phone, I was like, elated because I talked to my son, which I did every Saturday. And then I was laughing and I was saying, well, why is he bringing up everything? You know what I mean? And, he was just like, I guess he was just in a reminiscent mood. And then the more I'm thinking and the more I'm thinking, something's going on. And like I said, but I had so much with my husband going in a hospital and stuff like that, that if I had really thought it out after, I would have actually known. And I guess I really did know, and I really didn't want to face it,
And it's like, could you have done anything differently though? Honestly, that's just it. He had plenty of people that were willing to take him to the doctors if he needed to go. People were saying that to him. So, on his terms,
yeah.
right? Oh, he was always the boss. He always liked to be in charge. So it was on his terms, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, okay, Liz said was going to take him. Carol was going to take him. You were going to. I mean, he had a lot of people that were willing to take him. That's when I realized he didn't want to go. I mean, he did not want to go to the doctors. He didn't want to be bothered with that,
Well, that's just it, because I had offered many times, and I knew I wasn't the only one that had offered. You know what I mean? So,
now Liz told me, because the day that Liz called, and that Thursday, you know how when you get up in the morning and your mind tells you need to call? And I'm like, okay. But then one of my friends came over and we were working on something. And then my other friend came over. So as she's leaving the house, the phone's ringing. So I just saw it ring and I said, I'm going to go to voicemail. And I said, as soon as, because we were talking about something, and I said, when I looked at the phone, I said, oh, that's Liz. And Liz never called me that much. You know what I mean? She called me occasionally to see how we mostly talk on Facebook. And so when I called Liz right back and I said, Liz, hey, what's up? She said, call me when you get this message. That's all she said. And she said, are you by yourself? And I said, no, my husband's here. I said, but he's sleeping. She said, well, do you want to wake him up? And I said, no, what? And I said, wait a minute. If you're going to tell me something, I already know. That's what I said to her. And she said, what do you mean you already know? And I said, what's wrong with Joey? So she told me. And I said, I already kind of felt that, because I said, you just don't call me at 8:30 at night. You know what I mean? We usually talk on Facebook and stuff. And she said, she told me what happened and everything like that. I talked to the police officer and everything like that, whatever. I talked to Carol and everything like that. Then I got to tell his niece and his sister. So she was actually upstairs in the room. His niece was. And my little great granddaughter came downstairs and she said to me, Dammy, what's wrong? Because I'm trying to, I hung up from everybody and I'm still just like holding my face on my hands and everything like that. And then I just started to cry. Well, when I started to cry, she started to cry. Well, she was 7 years old at the time. So, no, she was 8. So she started to cry. So she runs upstairs and says to her mother, I don't know what she said, but then her mother comes downstairs and she said, like, damn, why are you crying? Dammy, and I'm like,
there's no easy way to.
Huh? I said, yeah, and I'm like, and I must have done so many times. And she said, tell me what's wrong. And so I told her. She starts crying. Okay. So in the meanwhile, my little granddaughter calls her sister who's home and tells her sister, what happened to Joey. So as we're getting dressed, I said, we got to go tell your mom. And so she goes upstairs and she gets my husband and everything. And I didn't want to wake him. I said, but I got to wake him because I got to tell him I'm leaving the house and everything like that. And he says, are you okay? And I said, I don't know. I really don't know, but I got to tell Rena. We get to the house. Okay. She lives around the corner from me. And we hear her screaming. And so Diamond says, go ahead. You all right? And I was like, yeah. So she runs in and everything like that. Angel, who was 12 at the time, because she just turned 13, says, calls her, my two grandchildren, and tells them. So they tell their mom before we can get to her. So I said to Diamond, I said, look, don't be mad at Angel or anything like that because she didn't know. So everybody's upset. So by the time I get back to the house and stuff like that, my husband says, okay, you need to lay down. And I'm like, why? He said, because you need to lay down and you need to take your medicine and you need to lay down. And I said, okay. Well, I texted BG's and Debts in Australia.
Yeah. We kind of, once we found out, like in the circle that we kind of hung out with, we were all texting, messaging each other once we found out.
Well, see, Smoke King was waiting for him to come to the,
I know.
you know, because Smoke King called me the next day and said, okay, this is a joke. And I'm like, no, it's not,
No.
you know. And so he said, but, and I said, yeah. I said, no, it's not. I said, I kept telling myself that too. I said, but Joey would never joke with us like that, and Joey wouldn't allow anybody to joke with us like that, you know. But yeah, it was terrible. But I mean, like I said, you know, the older we get, the more we're going to be prepared because there's going to be people. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. You'll just, like I said, and you've already had yours happen. It'll probably happen again, but it just all seems to come crashing down around us. You know?
Yeah.
You know, and then it's a hard thing. It's really a hard thing. But I mean, you face it the best way you can. That's all I've got to say.
I think
so.
Say anyone is like, just to honor your feelings. When you feel sad, because I stuffed down the feelings for like 4 months with my mom and it did not serve me well. So I learned that when it comes because you just don't know. It hits you when you least expect it. So I guess it's like when you feel it, you just got to feel it.
Yep.
Even though it sucks.
So you know it's 8 o'clock. It was 8:06, and you know that I turn into a pumpkin.
I turn into a almost a pumpkin.
So I'm gonna go get me a cup of tea and go have a half a sandwich, and I'm gonna go take a shower. So
thanks for having me on, Donia.
Oh, anytime. We will probably the first of the month, I guess. Not next week, but the week after. We'll do it every 2 weeks, and people can come on and they can share their grievances and stuff, and share the good stories too. Because, like I said, we seem to always want to dwell on those things that are bad, and we need to, dwell on the good things. Okay, so I'm going to tell everybody good night. God bless. Stay safe. Hold your family close. And I am going to turn into a pumpkin, Joe decide. You know I am, okay? I mean, I'll be like that guy that used to sleep, or the woman or the guy, I don't know who was, used to sleep on Joey and Smoking show.
Was it Mari? I think they used to fall asleep. I don't think it was Littles. I think it was Mari that used to fall asleep.
I guess, I don't know, but you'd hear him snoring. Good night, wellness, Frugal Mama. I'll probably try to see you in the morning. I need to get rid of this, Mari, yeah. Okay, good night, everybody. God bless. See you in the next video. Love you all. Take care.